Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the Alabama Senate will now come to order. Our prayer today will be delivered by Pastor Jamie Pruitt of Gillum Springs Baptist Church in Arab. That happens to be my pastor, Pastor Pruitt.
Would you all bow your heads with me? Almighty God and Heavenly Father, it is with humility and great need that we approach you today. We're mindful of what your word tells us in Psalm 90. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth, you are from everlasting to everlasting. We know that every good and perfect gift comes from above. We know they come from you, Father, so help us not to take anything you've given us for granted. May we never believe that we or our work is the source of the blessings we enjoy. Father, today we thank you for this fine state. We thank you for the wonderful people that call Alabama their home. We thank you for the resources and for all the good that is accomplished in this state. We thank you for those that work for the good of our state and for the welfare of our fellow man. And we do believe, as those who came before us, that you've given us the right to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. And we thank you for those who fought and died, that we may retain those gifts. May we never forsake these rights or the pursuit of them, and may we never forsake you. Now, Father, before me today are men and women who, with great enthusiasm and passion, sought the office that they hold. And I would pray that if either of those weaken, you would reignite their souls, remind them of the lofty and noble goals with which they ran, so that they may not grow weary, and so that they can effectively and honorably represent the people of Alabama. Father, my prayer often, and again today, is that you would give to each of them wisdom to know what is right, what is good, what is best for this state. Empower them with courage when decisions are difficult. And Father, I would also ask that you would find in them genuine humility and unwavering integrity, so that neither they nor we ever feel shame for how they act or what they do. And may we remember the words of your prophet Jeremiah, to stand and look and to ask for the ancient paths where the good way is, and that we would walk in it, that we may find rest for our souls. So, Father, bless today those who make up the Alabama Senate as they seek to come together. Grant them peace, harmony, unity. Lord, you can bind their hearts together as they work for this state, and may you be honored in this room today. I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Pruitt. Today the pledge will be led by Senate Page Charlie Sullivan. Charlie is paging for Senator Singleton.
Attention, salute, pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Charlie. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chastain. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures, Mr. Gavan, Mr. Gudger, Mr. Hatcher, Mr. Hovey, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Livingston, Mr. Milson, Mr. Orr, Mr. Price, Mr. Reed, Mr. Roberts, Mr. Schofield, Mr. Sessions, Mr. Shelnut, Mr. Singleton, Mr. Smitherman, Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have 25 senators present, which is a quorum. The Senate is ready to transact business. Before we get started, I want to recognize some special guests in the gallery, Larry and Deborah Carnley, the parents of Senator Josh Carnley. If y'all could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. All right, Senator Reed. Recess.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we move into a recess. At the call of the chair, we've got some special guests that we want to recognize today. I know this is going to be very important to the body, so that'd be my motion at this point.
All right, you heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand in recess.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the body, thank you so much. I appreciate each of you being here and being in your place today. Earlier, Mr. President, in this session, we had a Senate joint resolution that was offered by Senator Orr that was honoring the 75th anniversary of the State of Israel and its relationship with the state of Alabama. And the desk has the resolution, and so at this point, Mr. President, I would ask that that resolution be read by the clerk.
All right, Secretary, read the resolution, please.
Senate Joint Resolution by Senator Orr honoring the 75th anniversary of the State of Israel and reaffirming the bonds of friendship and cooperation between Alabama and Israel. Whereas on May 14th, 1948, the people of Israel proclaimed the establishment of the sovereign and independent State of Israel, and the United States immediately recognized Israel and established full diplomatic relations. And whereas this year marks the 75th anniversary of the fulfillment of the dream and longing of the Jewish people to regain independence in their ancestral homeland, whose roots include their historic sovereignty in the land of Israel, established over 3,000 years ago with the city of Jerusalem then, as it now the capital of the world's only sovereign Jewish state. And whereas Alabama and Israel share a commitment to deeply held common values from the history of each shaped greatly through the influence of biblical faith, in addition to many nationally shared values as the only democratic ally of the United States in the Middle East. And whereas Israel is one of the smallest countries in the world, yet it is also one of the world leaders in technology and innovation, helping to face global challenges through pioneering research and development in sustainable energy, medicine, cybersecurity, and more. And whereas since its establishment, the modern state of Israel has rebuilt the nation, forged a vibrant democracy, developed a dynamic society, and created a thriving economic, political, cultural, and intellectual life despite heavy burdens of war and terrorism. And whereas the state of Alabama is an unequivocal supporter of the state of Israel and its right to defend itself against terror and any threat to its security. And whereas Israel's peace with Egypt and Jordan and the signing of the recent Abraham Accords paves the way for further regional stability and a new era of opportunity between Israel and her Arab neighbors and gives hope for a better future for all. Whereas the state of Alabama remains committed to a future where the state of Israel and all her neighbors can live in peace with mutual recognition of each other's dignity and sovereignty. Whereas in the midst of World War II, when the Axis powers were not only waging world war against America and Europe, but also seeking the mass murder and systemic extermination of the Jewish people, Alabama led the nation in an official call for the establishment of the Jewish state in its ancestral homeland, 5 years before Israel was reborn as a nation. And whereas this year also marks the 80th anniversary of that historic resolution, Act 144, Senate Joint Resolution, 1943 regular session, and the beginning of a long history of devoted friendship, cooperation, and strong, unwavering support from the state of Alabama for the state of Israel. And whereas the strong bond between Alabama and Israel continues to be expressed in growing political, cultural, economic, academic, business, and community partnerships for the mutual benefit of our people. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the legislature of Alabama, both houses thereof concurring, that the state of Alabama honors and celebrates the historic significance of the 75th anniversary of the establishment of the State of Israel, becoming once again the world's only nation state of the Jewish people, in its ancestral homeland with Jerusalem, once again, its eternal, undivided capital. Recognizes and supports Israel in its legal, historical, and moral right to independence and self-determination. Commends the people of Israel for their remarkable achievements, resilience, determination in building a new and flourishing state in the face of hatred, terrorism, hostility, and belligerence by neighbors and others in the international community. Reaffirms the historic 1943 joint resolution from Alabama supporting the establishment of the Jewish state and homeland in Israel, and celebrates the historic significance of the 80th anniversary of its passing. Commits to the continued friendship, cooperation, and strengthening of the relationship between Alabama and Israel for the good of Alabama, Israel, the United States, and the family of nations. Extends the warmest congratulations, heartfelt prayers, declared blessings, and best wishes to the state of Israel and her people for a peaceful, prosperous, and successful future. Be it further resolved that it is directed that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Alabama delegation to the United States Congress and to the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. for transmission to all the proper authorities in the state of Israel.
Thank you, Mr. President. And let it be known that the members of this body have voted to adopt the resolution that's just been read already. And so our support of Israel is strong from this body, as it has been from years past until today. Mr. President, I'm going to ask at this time if you would recognize Anat Sultan Dadan, the Consul General of Israel for the Southeastern United States of America, for remarks.
All right. Ms. Anat Sultan Dadan, you're recognized. And also at this time, I believe the Pro Tem is going to present to you the resolution. Do you have that, Mr. Pro Tem? And that is co-sponsored by everyone in this chamber. And we want to give that to as a gift of you. So, thank you. All right. Mr. Don.
Shalom. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, and thank all of you for this beautiful resolution celebrating and honoring Israel on its 75th Independence Day. Jewish visionary Theodor Herzl, who turned Zionism into a political movement 125 years ago, famously wrote, "If you will it, it is no dream." Today, we celebrate the realization of the age-old Zionist dream, and there is so much to celebrate. We celebrate the regaining of sovereignty and control of our destiny, and the incredible regathering of the Jewish people in our ancient homeland. In 75 short years, we have established a vibrant democracy, a diverse society, and a robust economy. Israel, as mentioned in the resolution, one of the smallest countries in the world, is today one of the world leaders in technology and innovation. Alongside so many achievements to celebrate, one crucial achievement is yet to be fully realized for Israel, that is peace with our neighbors. Peace has been achieved with Egypt and with Jordan, and the Abraham Accords signed in 2020 between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain are paving the way for a new Middle East, one of partnership and prosperity for those who choose a better tomorrow for their peoples. Both Israel and the United States are fully committed to expanding the circle of peace. While we will keep pursuing that goal, we will always remain prepared to defend ourselves against any threat to our country and people. Israel's eternal commitment as the nation-state of the Jewish people is that never again will a Jew face hate, danger, or persecution with nowhere to turn. But there must be a global commitment as well. With anti-Semitic incidents reaching an all-time high in the United States, declaring never again on Holocaust Remembrance Day is not enough. In 2022, Governor Kay Ivey signed a proclamation adopting the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance working definition of anti-Semitism. By adopting this definition, Alabama serves as an example to many others in standing in support of the Jewish people and standing up to hate and intolerance. Celebrating Israel's independence is of special significance here in the United States. Our many accomplishments were made possible also thanks to the support of our friends. As we celebrate 75 years of independence, we are also celebrating 75 years of the robust relations between Israel and the United States. And in Alabama, our friendship dates back even further, as was mentioned. In 1943, 5 years before Israel declared modern statehood, Alabama led the nation as the first state in America to officially call for the establishment of the Jewish state in our ancestral homeland. The unanimous joint resolution passed both state houses, urging both the United States and the United Nations to action. 5 years later, on May 14, 1948, the State of Israel declared its independence, and just minutes later, United States President Harry Truman was the first world leader to officially recognize our statehood. Since then, the United States has stood steadfast in its support of the nation-state of the Jewish people. Within the United States, the state of Alabama stands out in its support of Israel and of our bilateral relations, which encompass a vast variety of fields: economic, cultural, academic, and more. Among many resolutions honoring the Alabama-Israel partnership, Alabama's support of Israel was highlighted in 2016 with the legislature passing an anti-BDS bill, stating clearly that the state of Alabama will not do business with those who boycott its greatest ally in the Middle East, Israel. As we celebrate Israel's accomplishments, and as we continue to face challenges, we know that we do not stand alone. I would like to finish by saying thank you, Toda Rabah, to our many friends here in the Alabama State Legislature, in the Alabama State Senate, for your support and commitment to Israel and the continued realization of our dream. Thank you.
Consul General, thank you so much for being with us today. It's our honor and privilege for you to be in our chamber. Mr. President, at this point, I would like to recognize the Majority Leader who has a special guest.
All right, Senator Schofield, you're recognized.
Mr. President, colleagues, it's my great honor to introduce a stalwart, an outspoken supporter of the nation of Israel. Coach Bruce Pearl is an absolute gem for the state of Alabama. He not only is building strong athletic players on the court, but more importantly, he is building men of character and faith off the court. Last year, he led his team to the nation of Israel and played the Israeli national team and almost beat them. And frankly, Coach, should have, because Israel double dribbled. But even more importantly than that, he gave his players the opportunity to be baptized in the Jordan River. What an amazing gift. So without further ado, we would invite Coach Pearl to say some words. Coach.
All right, Coach. Yeah.
War Eagle. You might find this hard to believe as often as I do this, but I'm actually a little nervous. And by the way, yes, we did play the Israeli national team, and we did almost beat them. The problem was the officials were Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we just couldn't get a call. I'm like, my Hebrew name is Mordechai, okay? Give me a break. But I'm glad Israel doesn't lose in Israel very often, aren't we? Glad about that? You know, it's truly an honor for me to be here. I love this country with all of my heart. I love the state of Alabama. I'm a Jewish basketball coach coaching in the SEC in the state of Alabama. What an amazing country we live in where that opportunity was given to me. I go to work every day trying to reward Auburn and the people that love Auburn for that opportunity. But the opportunity almost didn't happen for me. Let me tell you when I fell in love with Israel. I was 7 years old. My grandfather was a plumber. Got up early, rarely watched TV, went to bed early. After one Shabbat dinner on a Friday night, he was up watching TV. And he was crying. I went over to him, put me up in his lap. I said, Papa, why are you crying? He told me about the state of Israel. He was watching the television, and it was the 6-Day War. He was afraid to go to bed because when he woke up, he was afraid Israel wasn't going to be there and the Jewish state would be destroyed. My grandfather, when he was 11 years old, escaped from Ternopil. He came to this country with his 3 younger siblings. He was the oldest at 11 years old. Much of his family couldn't afford to go and died in the Holocaust. And Papa told me then that had Israel perhaps been born sooner than 1948, maybe in 1920, more of his family might have been able to make that trip instead of the expensive trip to come to the United States. So the courage of the state of Alabama in 1943 to do something that was not exactly popular or politically correct, to call for the establishment of the Jewish state 5 years before she was born, speaks to me. And I'm grateful. I'm proud of this state. And I believe the Consul General from Israel is also proud. You could hear it in her words. What an honor to be a citizen of the state of Alabama, to be a Jewish citizen of the state of Alabama, and have the opportunity to thank you for your support. Israel is now a great ally. That hasn't always been the case because when she was first born, she was not strong. And now she perhaps is our greatest ally, but continues to face tremendous, tremendous threats. You know there are 9 million people living in Israel? 6 million of them are Jewish, but there are actually 3 million Arabs that are living there. And you know what? The majority of them are living well. Over half of the population that is in the medical industry, doctors, nurses, caregivers, aren't Jewish. They're Arab, Muslim. You talk about diversity, you talk about a land of opportunity. I'm proud of Israel for leading the way in that regard, and I know you are as well. Israel faced tremendous threats. We cannot allow a nuclear Iran. And I'm grateful that our leadership here is in support of that. I'll close by saying, here's why I took my team to Israel. If you have a chance to go, go. I go every spring, and I would love to take you on a trip. I leave May 5th once again for another trip with the folks at JH Ranch and USIEA. I brought my team there because I wanted them to see where Jesus walked. I wanted them to see the Garden of Gethsemane where he was betrayed. I wanted them to go to Bethlehem and see where he was born. I wanted them to go to the Sea of Galilee where he performed his miracles. As a basketball coach, my job is always to bring people together. That's what I do. I look at Israel as the greatest place we can bring people together. grateful that the capital, Jerusalem, is now a place where anybody and everybody can go and pray and visit and get closer to our Father God. Abraham is the father of all nations. To me, that brings us together. As I grew in my faith and I began to understand more about Jesus, he was a rabbi. He was Jewish his whole life. He celebrated Passover every year. To my Christian brothers and friends and wife, that brings us together. By the way, do you know who my wife's two favorite Jews are in the world? Me and Jesus. It means we're all family. I have never felt more a part of a spiritual and religious family than the time that I've lived in this great state of Alabama. To be embraced by my Christian friends and brothers, truly, and recognizing that we share the same God. And I'm truly, truly grateful for it. It's what makes this state so very, very special. And so, in closing, we celebrate Israel's birth. We celebrate Israel's existence. We want to build on all the progress that's being made with the Abraham Accords, and that's a whole nother subject. We celebrate its future. Grateful to the leadership, grateful to the state of Alabama, and Am Yisrael Chai, War Eagle.
Thank you, Coach Pearl, and War Eagle back. So,
Mr.
Senator Reed.
President, while we remain in recess, there's some photographs need to be taken to signify the importance of this occasion. So if the general will again join us here at the front, along with the Majority Leader, Coach Pearl, for some photographs.
All right.
Governor, I think you would need to come down here if you would, please. Also, is the Minority Leader available? Also, Senator Orr, who sponsored the resolution. And then once we get this photograph, then we'll have opportunities for others to be able to get pictures if they would like.
The Senate is back in session. Senator Wagner.
Mr. President, I move we dispense with the reading of the journal from the previous legislative day.
All right. Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move that we excuse absent senators.
All right. Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. Now move on to introduction of bills. Senator Jones.
Mr. President, move that we allow for the introduction of bills at any point throughout the day.
All right. Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. President, I'd like to take House messages.
All right. Secretary, when you're ready, call the first House message.
Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives has amended, as therein shown and is amended, has passed the following Senate bill and returns same herewith to the Senate. Senate Bill number 55, relating to guardianships and conservatorships. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
All right, Senator Reed.
I'm going to ask the desk, the Senate sponsor on that legislation. Mr. President,
Senator Reed.
I move that we concur with the wishes of the House.
All right, using the long roll.
Using the long roll.
Okay. Secretary, call the long roll, please.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Schofield. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
(22 ayes, 0 nays). Senate Bill 55 concurs. All right, Secretary, call next House message.
Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives has amended, as therein shown and is amended, has passed the following Senate bill and returns same herewith to the Senate. Senate Bill number 59, relating to disclosure of certain personal information. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
All right, Senator Smithman.
Mr. President, I would ask that the body would concur with the changes that the House made.
All right, would you like to use previous roll?
Yes, sir, if I may.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. How many sheet of paper?
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
Twenty-three ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 59, we concur.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Hey, thank you, Senator Smithman.
Yes, sir.
All right, Secretary, call the next House message.
Greg.
All right, this concludes House message. Is that right, Mr. Pro Tem?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Now move on to committee reports. Secretary, call the first committee.
From the Committee on Finance and Taxation Education, House Bill number 65 receives a favorable report by a vote of 13 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation Education, House Bill number 103 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 13 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation Education, Senate Bill number 90 receives a favorable report by a vote of 13 ayes and 0 nays.
These bills received a second reading to be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call next committee.
From the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund, House Bill number 57 receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund, House Bill number 238 receives a favorable report by a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays.
These bills received a second reading to be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call next committee.
From the Committee on Confirmations, Senate Confirmation number 63, appointing Chad Watkins to the Alabama Board of Examiners of Landscape Architects, receives a favorable report by a vote of 15 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move the Senate confirm Chad Watkins to the Landscape Architect Board of Examiners to use in previous role.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
23 ayes, 0 nays. Chad Watkins confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmations, Senate Confirmation number 60, appointing Adrian Johnson to the Judicial Inquiry Commission, receives a favorable report by a vote of 15 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President. Mr. President, I move the Senate confirm Adrian Johnson to the Judicial Inquiry Commission using previous role. No objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
23 ayes, 0 nays. Adrian Johnson is confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmations, Senate Confirmation number 61, appointing Ralph Malone to the Judicial Inquiry Commission, receives a favorable report by a vote of 15 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, move that the Senate confirm Ralph Malone to the Judicial Inquiry Commission using previous role. No objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
23 ayes, 0 nays. Ralph Malone's confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmations, Senate Confirmation number 62, appointing William Matthews to the Judicial Inquiry Commission, receives a favorable report by a vote of 15 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President. Mr. President, I move the Senate confirm William Matthews to Judicial Inquiry Commission uses previous role. No objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
24 ayes, 0 nays. William Matthews is confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmations, Senate Confirmation Number 59, appointing Nicole Thompson to the Judicial Inquiry Commission, receives a favorable report by a vote of 15 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President,
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, move that the Senate confirm Nicole Thompson to Judicial Inquiry Commission using previous role. No objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
24 ayes, 0 nays. Nicole Thompson's confirmed. Secretary, call the next confirmation.
That's all.
All right. That concludes confirmation, so we'll move on to committee. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill Number 158 receives a favorable report by a vote of 10 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstention. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill Number 198 receives a favorable report with 1 amendment by a vote of 11 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstention. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill 206 receives a favorable report by a vote of 9 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 abstention. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill Number 97 receives a favorable report with 1 amendment by a vote of 12 ayes and 0 nays. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill Number 83 receives a favorable report with 1 amendment by a vote of 11 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstention. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill Number 121 receives a favorable report by a vote of 5 ayes, 3 nays, and 1 abstention. From the Judiciary Committee, House Bill Number 37 receives a favorable report by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays. From the Judiciary Committee, House Bill Number 34 receives a favorable report by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill Number 157 receives a favorable report by a vote of 6 ayes, 2 nays, and 1 abstention. From the Judiciary Committee, House Bill Number 272 receives a favorable report by a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays. From the Judiciary Committee, House Bill Number 266 receives a favorable report by a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays.
All right, these bills received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. And at this time, I want to recognize some special guests in the gallery, the guest of Senator Wagner. When I call your name, if you could please stand, the Vestavia Hills Elementary School, if y'all could please stand. Welcome to Alabama Senate. All right, Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee on Fiscal Responsibility and Economic Development, Senate Bill Number 145 receives a favorable report with substitute by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Fiscal Responsibility and Economic Development, Senate Bill Number 215 receives a favorable report by a vote of 12 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Fiscal Responsibility and Economic Development, Senate Bill Number 222 receives a favorable report with 1 amendment by a vote of 12 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Fiscal Responsibility and Economic Development, House Bill Number 157 receives a favorable report by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays.
These bills received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee on Education Policy, House Bill number 164 receives a favorable report by a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Education Policy, House Bill number 261 receives a favorable report with 1 amendment by a vote of 6 ayes and 1 nay.
These bills received a second reading to be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call next committee.
From the Healthcare Committee, House Bill number 55 receives a favorable report by a vote of 13 ayes and 0 nays. From the Healthcare Committee, Senate Bill number 239 receives a favorable report by a vote of 12 ayes and 0 nays.
These bills received a second reading to be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call next committee.
From the Committee on Tourism, House Bill number 166 receives a favorable report by a vote of 8 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstention. From the Committee on Tourism, Senate Bill number 182 receives a favorable report with 1 amendment by a vote of 9 ayes and 0 nays and 1 abstention. From the Committee on Tourism, Senate Bill number 230 receives a favorable report by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays with 3 amendments.
These bills received a second reading to be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. I'd like to recognize some special guests in the gallery. The guest of Senator Stewart. If I call your name, if you could please stand. The drug-free communities of Dallas County. If y'all could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. All right, Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee on Veterans and Military Affairs and Public Safety, Senate Bill number 225 receives a favorable report by a vote of 5 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Veterans and Military Affairs and Public Safety, House Bill number 29 receives a favorable report by a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Safety, House Bill number 21 receives a favorable report by a vote of 5 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Safety, House Bill number 44 receives a favorable report by a vote of 5 ayes and 0 nays. From the Committee on Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Safety, House Bill number 210 receives a favorable report by a vote of 5 ayes and 0 nays. From Veterans, Military Affairs, and Public Safety, House Bill number 62 receives a favorable report by a vote of 6 ayes and 0 nays.
These bills have received their second reading and will be placed on the calendar for the next legislative day. This concludes committee reports. Now move on to motions and resolutions.
Mr. President, I have a resolution from Rules.
Secretary, read and receive the resolution.
From the Committee on Rules, House Joint Resolution number 37, honoring the memory of Chief Warrant Officer 3 Danny Randolph and Chief Warrant Officer 3 Daniel Wadham of the Tennessee National Guard, receives a favorable report.
Mr. President, move adoption of the resolution.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Mr. President, I have a resolution from Rules.
Secretary, read and receive the resolution.
From the Committee on Rules, House Joint Resolution number 58, commending Taiwan for its relations with the United States and the state of Alabama, receives a favorable report.
Mr. President, move adoption of the resolution.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
I have a resolution from Rules.
Secretary, receive and read the resolution.
From the Committee on Rules, House Joint Resolution Number 69, urging the Biden administration to affirm Redstone Arsenal as the future location of the U.S. Space Command, receives a favorable report.
Mr. President, move adoption of the resolution.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Mr. President, have a resolution from Rules.
Secretary, receive and read the resolution.
Are we dealing with the naming of Highway 53 after
From the Committee on Rules,
killing that helicopter crash?
House Joint Resolution
No, it's-
Number 91, commending the University of South Alabama on the occasion of its 60th anniversary, receives a favorable report.
Mr. President, move adoption of the resolution.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. President, I have a resolution from Rules.
Secretary, receive and read the resolution.
From the Committee on Rules, House Joint Resolution Number 114, proclaiming the month of April as National Donate Life Month, receives a favorable report.
Mr. President, move adoption of the resolution.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Any other motions or resolutions? All right, the desk will call the first uncontested local bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, House Bill Number 245 by Representative Standridge relating to Blount County. BR pending.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move the BIR using previous role.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
$25 ayes, no nays, BIR is adopted. Senator Livingston?
Mr. President, I move we pass HB 245.
Technical error. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, House Bill Number 245 by Representative Standridge relating to Blount County.
Mr. President, I move we pass HB 245 using previous role. No objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
26 ayes, no nays. HB 245 is passed. Senator Livingston? I guess we
Call the next local bill.
Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, House Bill Number 224 by Representative Shedd relating to Coleman County. BIR pending.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move the BIR using previous role. No objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
26 ayes, no nays, BIR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, House Bill Number 224 by Representative Shedd relating to Coleman County.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I'd use final passage using previous role. No objection of HB 224.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
Seven ayes, no nays. HB 224 is adopted. And 20, I thought he said 7. 27 ayes, 0 nays. Secretary, call the next local bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, House Bill 102 by Representative Baker relating to Escambia County. BIR pending.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
President, I move the BIR using previous role. No objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
27 ayes, no nays. The BIR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, House Bill Number 102 by Representative Baker relating to Escambia County.
Mr. President, I'd move that the Senate pass HB 102 using previous role with no objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
27 ayes, no nays. HB 102 is adopted. Secretary, call the next bill on the next uncontested local bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, House Bill Number 33 by Representative Estes relating to Marion County. BIR pending.
Senator Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move the Senate passes the BIR using previous role with no objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
27 ayes, no nays. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, House Bill number 33 by Representative Estes relating to Marion County.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I use final approval of HB 33 using previous role with no objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
27 ayes, no nays. HB 33 is adopted. Secretary, call the next bill on the next uncontested local bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, House Bill number 222 by Representative Bolton relating to Pickens County. BR pending.
Mr. President, I move the BIR using previous role with no objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
27 ayes, no nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, House Bill number 222 by Representative Bolton relating to Pickens County.
Mr. President, I move final passage of HB 222 using previous role with no objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
27 ayes, no nays. HB 222 is adopted. Secretary, call the next uncontested local bill.
On page 27 of the calendar, House Bill number 146 by Representative Hill relating to St. Clair County. BIR pending.
Mr. President, I move the BIR using previous role with no objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
27 ayes, no nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 26 of the calendar, House Bill number 146 by Representative Hill relating to St. Clair County.
Mr. President, I move final passage HB 146 using previous role with no objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
27 ayes, no nays. HB 146 is adopted. Secretary, call the next uncontested local bill.
On page 27 of the calendar, House Bill number 150 by Representative Hill relating to St. Clair County. BIR pending.
Mr. President,
Senator Livingston.
move the BIR using previous role without objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
27 ayes, no nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 27 of the calendar, House Bill number 150 by Representative Hill relating to St. Clair County.
Mr. President,
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move final passage of HB 150 using previous role with no objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
27 ayes, no nays. HB 150 is adopted. This concludes local bills.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Wagner.
Mr. President, I have a report from the Committee on Rules.
Secretary, receive and read the report from the Committee on Rules.
From the Committee on Rules, Senate Resolution number 53, Special Order Calendar. Be it resolved by the Senate that the following bills in the order name shall be a special, paramount, and continuing order of business, taking precedence over all other matters until disposed of for the 15th legislative day only. On page 10 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 150 by Senator Gavan relating to real property. On page 13, Senate Bill 155 by Senator Weaver relating to the Board of Medical Examiners. On page 4, Senate Bill number 18 by Senator Beasley relating to the State Board of Prosthetists and Orthotists. On page 20, House Bill 161 by Representative Faulkner relating to the Insurance Department. On page 8, Senate Bill 174 by Senator Orr relating to school security. On page 15, Senate Bill 201 by Senator Carnley relating to motor vehicle registration. On page 9, Senate Bill 178 by Senator Chambliss relating to the Department of Veterans Affairs. On page 21, House Bill 60 by Representative Ellis relating to the Insurance Department. On page 18, Senate Bill 204 by Senator Gavan relating to the legislature. On page 25, Senate Bill 228 by Senator Roberts relating to residential real estate. On page 18, Senate Bill 129 by Senator Singleton relating to the Commissioner of Corrections. On page 22, House Bill 141 by Representative Ellis relating to disability insurance. On page 19, Senate Bill 153 by Senator Barfoot relating to criminal procedure. On page 8, Senate Bill 175 by Senator Orr relating to the Re-Engage Alabama Grant Program. On page 19, House Bill 144 by Representative Hill relating to the courts. On page 22, Senate Bill 208 by Senator Price relating to organ transplants. And on page 21, Senate Bill 187 by Senator Wagner relating to the Alabama Security Regulatory Board.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move adoption of the reports from the Committee on Roads using the short roll.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
Mr. President,
28 ayes, no nays. The special order calendar is adopted. Senator Singleton,
Mr. Point of personal privilege.
you're recognized.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you listen up for a second, we have a calendar here that I know from my side of the aisle, we don't see anything on this calendar that's really controversial. I know that there's a couple of bills that may need amended. I just think that we can get us a good roll these on out, and we can be out of here before noon. All right? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Singleton. Secretary, call the first bill on the special order calendar.
On page 10 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 150 by Senator Gavan relating to real property, BR pending.
Senator Gavan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move the BR using previous roll with no objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
Twenty-nine ayes, no nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 10 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 150 by Senator Gavan relating to property.
Senator Gavan.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a pretty simple bill. It's just kind of catching up with technology. This is something I ran in course of practice with some of the newer plats that are recorded electronically. Our state code says that to vacate those, the probate judge has to physically write the word vacate or stamp vacated on there. Well, you can't very well do that with an electronic plat. So this allows for a certificate. So I don't know if there are any questions about it, but.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
could I be recognized?
You want to make sure. Senator Gavan, do you yield? All right. Yes, you're recognized.
I just wanted to say quickly, ditto, and I concur with Senator Singleton. That's all. I concur with Senator Singleton.
Mr. President. Senator Gavan, you yield?
Yes.
All right. Senator, you're recognized.
Can I just hope that Senator Singleton and Senator Smithman don't come here and that's, that what they said is irrevocable. So let's just hope they don't come up here and do that.
All right. Senator Gavan.
Well, I would ask that we move for final passage using previous roll. There's no objection.
All right. Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 150 passes. Thank you, Senator Gavan.
Mr. President, if I may, we carried over SB 166 at the call of the chair, and I had an amendment to make on that. I didn't want to make an irrevocable error on that, so if we can bring that up.
All right, and the bill number, Senate Bill 166. All right, Secretary, call up Senate Bill 166.
On page 24 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 166 by Senator Gavan relating to municipalities.
So at this time, I would move adoption. I'm sorry, offer an amendment, and we already passed the BR on this one.
That's correct. Yeah, we're on the amendment right now. Is it an amendment he just introduced? All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill 166 by Senator Gavan. Replace line 157 on page 6 with the following. Owners of real property comprising of at least 60%. Replace line 159 on page 6 with the following. Replace line 161 on page 6 with the following. Replace line 163 on page 6 with the following.
So what this does is it increases the threshold of the vote of the owners that would be submitting to this. We felt like it was, at 50%, it was not strong enough, and it also could allow people that had a higher valuation of property to kind of swamp the smaller owners, and this allows a check on that by having a higher percentage threshold of fair market value and at least 50% of the landowners. So, any questions about this from Minority Leader?
No, you explained it. There were some members on my side wanting an explanation, so you did it.
Thank you. So, I would move for adoption of the amendment on using previous roll if there's no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Gavan amendment's adopted. Senator Gavan.
So now I would move for final passage as amended if using previous roll there's no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 166 passes as amended. Thank you, Senator Gavan.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Secretary, call the next bill on the calendar.
On page 13 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 155 by Senator Weaver relating to the Board of Medical Examiners. BR pending.
Before we get started, I'd like to recognize some special guests in the gallery. The guest of Senator David Sessions. I want to call your name, if you could please stand. The senior citizens from 3 Baptist churches in Grand Bay. If y'all could please stand. Welcome to Alabama Senate. Great to have you all today. All right, Senator Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move the BIR previous roll with no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 13 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 155 by Senator Weaver relating to the Board of Medical Examiners.
Senator Weaver.
Thank you, sir. The Physician Workforce Act, SB 155, deals with a major issue that we have right now, which is a shortage of physicians in Alabama. I believe if we don't act now to do this, we're going to have some irrevocable consequences that we're going to be faced with. And if we want more doctors to practice in Alabama, we need to make our state more welcoming to doctors, and this bill does just that. And with that, I'd like to ask for final passage using previous roll, no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 155 passes. Thanks, Senator Weaver.
President.
Secretary, call the next bill on the calendar.
On page 4 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 18 by Senator Beasley relating to the State Board of Prosthetists and Orthotists. BR pending.
Senator Beasley.
Can be recognized, please?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 18 is the Prosthesis and Orthotics Act. They are governed by the Board of Prosthesis and Orthotics, and that's limbs and braces for folks who don't know that. They had to be certified by a national organization, and they no longer have to do that. So what this bill does is deletes the requirement that a national board has to certify the prosthesis and orthotics. I'd like to move for passage of the BR or use the previous roll.
All right, would you like to use previous roll?
Use previous
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill, please.
On page 4 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 18 by Senator Beasley relating to prosthetists and orthotists.
Mr. President, I'd like to move for final passage. Use previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection?
Third reading be dismissed with.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 18 passes. Thank you, Senator Beasley. All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 20 of the calendar, House Bill number 161 by Representative Faulkner relating to the Insurance Department. BR pending.
Mr. President.
Senator, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. HB 161 is a companion bill to the Senate bill that we've already passed out of this body unanimously. It deals with letting the Department of Insurance post online instead of having to post in the newspaper. So with that being said, I move for BIR using previous role, if no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
Thirty ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 20 of the calendar, House Bill number 161 by Representative Faulkner relating to the Insurance Department.
Mr. President, move for final passage of HB 161 using, going too fast. Okay. Mr. President, move for final passage of HB 161 using previous role, if no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Hold on 1 second.
Do we need to adopt?
All right, Mr. President, we have a committee amendment we need to adopt first, so I move for final adoption of the committee amendment using previous role.
Let me let the desk get called up for a second. So we're in the committee amendment here. Got a motion to adopt it using previous role. All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The committee amendment's adopted.
All right, Mr. President, now I move for final passage of HB 161 using previous role, with no objection.
All right, any objection? All right, hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 161 passes amended.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Hey, thanks, Senator Sheldon. Secretary, call next bill.
On page 8 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 174 by Senator Orr relating to school security personnel. BR pending.
All right, Senator Orr.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move adoption of the BR using previous role.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 7 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 174 by Senator Orr relating to school security.
Mr. President.
Senator Orr.
Thank you. Folks, this is a bill that will help with SROs, retired former police officers, law enforcement officers in the schools. I'll tell you more about it if you want to hear about it. This time I'd move third reading using the previous role.
Okay, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 174 passes. Thank you, Senator Orr. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 15 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 201 by Senator Carnley relating to motor vehicle registration. BR pending.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
Senator Carnley is dashing up the elevator as we speak now, and he asked us to have a conversation with him as he gets to it. So this, I believe, is part of your military package that y'all put together, come out of Lieutenant Governor's office. Is that correct? Yes, sir?
That's correct.
So, man says move it, so I move we pass the BIR using previous role, no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Move it. Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 15 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 201 by Senator Carnley relating to motor vehicle registration.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
President, again, this is part of your military package that you put together, and we're moving on with that. I move we use final passage using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 201 passes. Thank you, Senator Carnley, for your hard work. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 9 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 178 by Senator Chambliss relating to the Department of Veterans Affairs. BR pending.
Mr. President.
Senator, you're recognized.
Senator Chambliss, I'm handling this bill on his behalf. This deals with veterans' benefits. Move adoption of the BR using previous role. If there are no objections.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 9 of the calendar, Senate Bill 178 by Senator Chambliss relating to the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. President.
Senator Jones.
This bill provides additional benefits for spouses who were killed while on state active duty status. If there are no questions at this time, I'd move final passage using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 178 passes. Thanks, Senator Jones. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 21 of the calendar, House Bill number 60 by Representative Ellis relating to the Insurance Department. BR pending.
All right. Before we get started on this, let me recognize some special guests in the gallery. The guests of Senator Price and Senator Hovey. When I call your name, if you could please stand. The Lee County Farmers Federation Women's Leadership Group. If y'all could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. All right.
Mr. President.
Senator Shelnut.
All right, I move for passage of the BR using previous role if no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, no nays. All right, Mr. President.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 21 of the calendar, House Bill number 60 by Representative Ellis relating to the Insurance Department.
Mr. President, again, this is another Department of Insurance bill that we've already passed, the Senate companion bill. All it does is remove the pre-licensing requirement. Seeing no questions, I move for final passage of HB 60 using previous role if no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 60 passes.
Thank you,
Thanks, Senator Shelnut. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 18 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 204 by Senator Gavan relating to the legislature. BR pending.
This is a bill we pass each year. We're codifying the acts we took last year. Would move the BIR using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. The Secretary, call the bill.
On page 18 of the calendar, Senate Bill 204 by Senator Gavan relating to the legislature.
Senator Gavan.
At this point in time, it looks like nobody's up to discuss, so I would move for final passage using previous role without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 204 passes. Thanks, Senator Gavan.
Thank you very much.
Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 25 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 228 by Senator Roberts relating to residential real estate. BR pending.
Mr. President, I'd like to move the BR.
Okay, would you like to use previous role?
Previous role.
Okay, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 25 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 228 by Senator Roberts relating to residential real estate. Committee amendment pending.
Senator Roberts.
Mr. President, I'd like to move adoption of the committee amendment using previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
Thirty-one ayes, 0 nays. The committee amendment's adopted. All right, Senator Roberts.
Now on the bill. The purpose of this is to deal with two predatory practices, which we've discussed at length, and put balance limits and declare as unenforceable some of these extended agreements. And I'd like to move final passage using previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 228 passes. Thanks, Senator
Thank you, Mr.
Roberts.
President.
Secretary, call next bill.
May I be recognized?
Yeah, you're recognized.
All right, Senator Roberts, I want you to go on and pass the bill before I made the comments, but I want to say this to everybody in here. I want y'all to listen to me just for a minute. Just for a minute. Just for a minute. This, you know how it is when you're trying when you're, I won't say gambling, but when you're trying to pick the right pick to do something, I just want to tell you, you got it right this time. Okay? You got it right this time. I want everybody to understand the importance of this bill that he passed. I've had the opportunity to talk to my residents expert on real estate, and which that is Senator Kelly. And most of y'all may know, if you're not, he used to be the state president for the Real Estate Association. And based on my conversation with him, this bill is going to help save people houses. It's going to help people from getting scammed, and it's going to protect the consumer in a way that they have never, ever been protected before.
And it's going to protect not just the consumers that you see today, it'll protect their heirs.
That's right.
Their children, and possibly even their grandchildren.
That's right.
And these new practices are being put in place across the country.
That's right.
I'm proud that we've joined what 5 other states have done in putting this in place.
Mm-hmm.
So as you know, you and I work on many things. I think most of those are right, but I appreciate you pointing out one more that you and I agree on, sir.
That's right. But I want to give you kudos for bringing it and for us passing it. And like I said, when I talked to my expert back here, I got a chance to talk to him. I was all in 100%. So I just want to commend you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Senator Smitherman. All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 18 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 129 by Senator Singleton relating to the Commissioner of Corrections. BR pending.
Mr. President, move for the BR use of previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, no nays,
31 ayes, 0 nay. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 18 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 129 by Senator Singleton relating to the Commissioner of Corrections.
Mr. President,
Senator Singleton.
this is a Department of Correction bill based on APOS certification for the commission and deputy commission, being able to keep that certification even after they go into the administration. So with that, Mr. President, I'd like to move for third reading be dispensed without previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, no
You late.
31 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 129 passes. Thanks, Senator Singleton.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 22 of the calendar, House Bill number 141 by Representative Ellis relating to disability insurance. BR pending.
Mr. President,
Senator Shelnut.
move for passage of the BR using previous rule.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
No.
On page 21 of the calendar, House Bill number 141 by Representative Ellis relating to disability insurance.
Mr. President, HB 141 is another bill. We've already passed the companion bill out of the Senate. It allows companies to offer policies for family leave time. See no question. So with that, move for final passage of HB 141 using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 141 passes. Thank you, Senator Shelnut. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 19 of the calendar, Senate Bill 153 by Senator Barfoot relating to criminal procedure. BR pending.
Mr. President, move for adoption of the BR using previous rule.
Senator Barfoot, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right.
Yes, sir.
BR using previous roll?
Yes, sir.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 19 of the calendar, Senate Bill 153 by Senator Barfoot relating to criminal procedure.
All right, Senator Barfoot.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know we're on a roll, and I don't want to delay that, but I do think it's important to provide an explanation of this bill and how it came to pass. So last year I had this bill that actually passed 30-0 out of this body. This is a bill that would allow a judge, as a condition of bond pending trial, to order on violent A or B felonies that, as a condition of that bond, that individuals obviously presumed innocent at that point, but to be monitored by Department of Probation and Paroles, gives us an opportunity. There's obviously a limited time there that, especially on violent crimes, sometimes working with DFS, where there's a delay there of 3 or 4 years, and oftentimes we're not sure where those folks are, those defendants are who are out and what they're doing. This will give us an opportunity to make sure we monitor them. It is discretionary from the courts. They don't have to order it. It's only on violent A or B felons, and it is irrevocable. So with that, with that, Mr. President, I'd move for final passage of SB 153 using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 153 passes. Thank you, Senator Barfoot. I'm not a judge. All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 8 of the calendar, Senate Bill 175 by Senator Orr relating to the Re-Engage Alabama Grant Program. BR pending.
Mr. President, I move adoption of the BIR using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 8 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 175 by Senator Orr relating to the Re-Engage Alabama Grant Program.
Mr. President,
Senator Orr.
this bill comes at the recommendation of AIC, and Dr. Purcell and I have talked at length. How do we get people with some college but hadn't finished their degree? How do we help them finish a college, either a 2-year degree, 4-year degree? This is a grant program. It's not a tax credit program, so we can adjust it based on appropriations. I'd move third reading using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 175 passes. Thank you, Senator Orr. Secretary, call the next bill on the calendar.
On page 19 of the calendar, House Bill 144 by Representative Hill relating to the courts. BR pending.
Senator Barfoot.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move for adoption of BIR using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 19 of the calendar, House Bill 144 by Representative Hill relating to the courts.
Senator Barfoot.
Thank you, Mr. President. This HB 144 is some technical corrections to existing law, allows for certifications of different levels of interpreters, and once they meet those qualifications, still would be revocable
It was not irrevocable if as long as they meet those qualifications and pay that and complete the testing portion of that. So with that, if there are no questions, I'd move for final passage of HB 144 using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 144 passes. Thanks, Senator Barfoot. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 22 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 208 by Senator Price relating to organ transplants. BR pending.
Mr. President, I'd ask for passage of the BR using previous roll, please.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 22 of the calendar, Senate Bill 208 by Senator Price relating to organ transplants.
Mr. President, at this time, what I'd like to do is we've had several groups that are working very close together for some fine tuning that we need to do on this bill, and I want to thank each and every one of them for getting together and making this a better bill. So we'd like to carry it over to the call of the chair, please.
Okay. Got a motion to carry over Senate Bill 208, call of the chair. Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. Too late. So already Senate Bill 208 is carried over to call the chair. Also at this time, I want to recognize the wife of Senator Price, Olene Price, Revenue Commissioner. If you could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. All right, Secretary, call the next bill, please.
On page 21 of the calendar, Senate Bill 187 by Senator Wagner relating to the Alabama Security Regulatory Board. BR pending.
All right, Senator Wagner.
Now, you're in charge. All right.
Mr. President, move adoption of the BIR using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, no nays.
31 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 21 of the calendar, Senate Bill 187 by Senator Wagner relating to the Alabama Security Regulatory Board.
Mr. President, this bill is really a cleanup bill of this agency, the Alabama Security Regulatory Board.
All right, any Senator Wagner, your motion, final passage using previous roll? We'll make sure I understood. Senator Wagner, did you make the motion, final passage using previous roll?
No, Senator Reed wants a little time to work on something, so me and...
All right, Senator Singleton wanted to talk on this bill.
Senator wanted to talk a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that we just need a minute to get some things slowed up. This is not a slowdown or a filibuster or attempt to, I'm the one who suggests that we move the day instead of trying to slow the day. I think the pro tem is trying to get a couple things together, and we're gonna just chit-chat for a little while.
All right, Senator Singleton, real quick, care if I recognize some special guests in the gallery?
Please help me out.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to help you out. All right, would like to, a guest of Senator Carnley, when I call your name, if you could please stand, the OP Housing Authority. If y'all could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. They're from OP, the OPP. Yeah, you know me.
Also home of the Rattlesnake Rodeo.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I love the little town of OP. It's a beautiful little town down in southeast, southwest Alabama, southeast Alabama, down near Florella. right in that area. Senator Conley District.
Senator Singleton, have you ever been to the Rattlesnake Rodeo?
I never gone, I've heard about it, never gone to the Rattlesnake Rodeo.
It's a very interesting experience to go to Opp, Alabama. Of course, it's interesting to go to Opp for any reason, okay?
Exactly. But, you know, that's interesting, the Rattlesnake Rodeo. I'm not afraid of snakes, but I ain't just fond of just being around them either. They don't have to be. But I'm not afraid of them. I kill them all the time, catching them in the woods, because I'm in the woods hunting or walking around sometimes. But rattlers is very seldom that I see a rattler in my area. Mine are more copperheads or what they call a rat snake or some of that nature. I very seldom see rattlers in my area. But I guess they're all down in Opp, getting ready for the rodeo.
That's right. We probably need to explain to people in the audience that we're on a delay tactic right now. There's something going on in the chamber that we need to just kill a few minutes.
Yes.
While the pro tem solves the issue, and then we'll pass Senate Bill 187. It's not a real controversial piece of legislation, but it's one the regulatory agency needs to clean up some of the issues within that department. So that's the reason they brought this legislation to me to introduce, and it's very important to them to solve these issues affecting this agency. It's a very important state agency, the Alabama Security Regulatory Board, and this bill solves a compensation issue among the board members, and it requires criminal background checks to people that make application to do business with the regulatory board. So this is really cleanup legislation. That's what I would call it. But it's another agency that been long-standing in the state of Alabama.
Yes, it has. And you know, those background checks allows us to be able to make sure that we got good high character people on these regulatory boards that are making decisions about other people in their industry. So that's strong. I think that you know, it's forward thinking for the agency to see that they need to clean this up. And like you said, it's just a regulatory piece for these agencies, and they come back to us because they know how their industry run. They know best. And so they'll come back to you and say, hey, we need to tweak this and this way to help our industry grow. So I appreciate you bringing this bill.
True. And sooner or later, just about all state agencies come before this body with cleanup, what I call cleanup legislation to make their operation move a little bit smoother. And,
yes.
Some agencies been operating in Alabama for years and years, and they have some obsolete laws that govern them, and they come to this body and the House of Representatives for cleanup, what we call cleanup legislation. And that's the case with Alabama Security Regulatory Agency.
And you know, and because of time and the way we do everything through computers now, a lot of it be just to catch up there, because they've been doing everything by paper forever. And it won't allow them to move forward to the next level. So a lot of time it's tweaking those technical things just for them to be able to use technology and different kinds of programs in some of these agencies, because other than that, they still be doing things by paper, you know.
That's true. Technology has really changed the operation of state government, federal government, the operation of businesses and banks and companies all over this state. It's a new area, a new arena that we operate in state government. And we have a lot of these type legislations coming before us to upgrade or update the operation of the various agencies. And this is a good example of it, what we're doing with Senate Bill 187.
Senator, I know Senator Livingston wanted to, if you don't mind yielding, wanted to take a point of personal privilege. Do you mind?
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. All right, Senator Livingston.
I will yield to the point of personal.
Yeah, if I could get everybody's attention. Senator Livingston, you recognized for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. It would be remiss of me not to remind everyone that today is the anniversary of the tornadoes of April 27th of 2011, and there were several hundred Alabamians killed, a lot in my area, a lot down in Tuscaloosa, and all across the state of Alabama. I think we ought to take just a moment of personal privilege and silence to recognize those folks and remember them and pray for folks today as we have severe weather in South Alabama.
Yeah, if you could join us in a moment of silence, please. All right, amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Livingston. Senator Singleton, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We were on this bill. Yeah, Senator Wagner, again, you were right. We have to come through here and clean up. You know, I was about to tell you this. There are some state agencies that are required to keep records and documents. And we got warehouses of papers and boxes that are standing up that the state of Alabama is having to rent warehouses through these agencies just to have all of this stuff cleaned up. And some of these bills that we're bringing, which allow them to be able to keep records now by computer, they can do away with a lot of that storage and go in and scan all those records so those records can be pulled down and drawn down. It still doesn't mean that a person can't go there and get a hard copy, but at the end of the day, it will save a lot of space in terms of rental space that the state is buying, warehouse space, because we got volumes and volumes and volumes of documents that's stacked up in warehouses that, based on the Constitution, to require them to keep those documents. And so, with it now being able to put a lot of those agencies on computer and scan them in, you save a lot of space and a lot of time so that you could be able to pull that full document up, print it out, and you can still give it to someone if they want a hard copy. And so this computer has saved us a whole lot of money. And some of these agencies have not still gotten there, but they will be going there in the future, and we can get away with some of these, I mean, we got, as you know, there are some warehouses that you don't even know you pass by a state warehouse, but some of them, you know, because no name on them or anything, but it's just full of documents, papers, that they have to go back. If somebody wants something in archives, they got to go out there and find somebody to go through all those documents to pull that archive. But we can take that archive and put it on computers.
I grew up in the generation you're talking about,
Yes.
what I call the paper generation.
And so did I.
Prior to computers and technology. And you're exactly right. We have warehouses in Montgomery owned by the state of Alabama with hundreds of millions of pieces of paper in it. Every agency, not just regulatory.
Exactly.
Every agency has volumes of papers and books, and we just don't do that anymore because of technology.
Yes.
Which is a great advancement, not only for state government, federal government, cities, you know, they're all in the technology era.
Right.
And, but that's not always how it has been.
You're exactly right. Somebody always had to go and pull that document for you and get it out and come back and run it off on the Xerox machine to give you a copy of it. Now they can just download it. They don't even have to come to the courthouse. They can just punch a button and send it to you now.
Yep.
And they can still be able to charge you if they're going to charge you for the document as if they were printed. They can still charge you and send it to you and give you a price for that, for having those papers. And so it's going to save us a lot of warehouse space. A lot of money can be saved on being spent there, and it'll save us tremendously. And it's more customer friendly, because the customer now don't have to wait forever for somebody to go out and find where those documents are, pull that document, because it may be 2 weeks sometime before you can get a document, because it may be back in that warehouse in Macon County somewhere, you know, because we got warehouses in Birmingham, everywhere we got state warehouses.
And I wonder sometimes, with all the paper records we have in this state, will we ever be able to throw that away? Or do they have to keep it forever for historic reasons and governmental reasons? But we have warehouses, as you know,
Right.
in state government. Every agency of the hundreds of agencies that operate in our cities and counties and states, will you ever get to the point where you can discard that or maybe put it on?
I think we can, because we are that body who can say that they can do it. And, you know, the Constitution may have said that they had to keep these records, you know, forever, and in a copy of this in a certain place, and that's what they had at that time. We could always change that to be electronically, and we have as much space as we want. Space is infinite at that time. And so you don't have to worry about it stacking up from this point, therefore. And you also have the ability to go back through and scan everything that you already have and put it on you know, disk, and that way you can always have it where then you can go and get rid of that old paper if you want. Because some of that stuff probably rotted, you know, in some of those boxes over the years, you know, probably have. And you probably go there and pick some of that old paper up and probably crumble in your hand, and it's not the document that you want. And so we'll keep it moving. We're moving.
Senator Wagner.
I move passage of Senate Bill 187 using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 187 passes. Thank you, Senator Wagner.
Mr. President.
Senator Allen.
I've got an SJR. I'd like to.
All right, requires unanimous consent.
I am.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. Secretary read and receive the SJR.
Thank you, sir.
Senate Joint Resolution number 54 by Senator Allen commending Miss Jenna Ross for being inducted into the University of Alabama College of Education 2023 Hall of Fame.
Mr. President.
Senator Allen.
I would like to ask all members of the Senate be added as co-sponsors.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
I move approval.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution's adopted.
Mr. President.
Senator Allen.
SJR.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the SJR. Any objection to that? Hearing none, so ordered.
Senate Joint Resolution number 55 by Senator Allen naming the portion of United States Highway Route 43 from mile marker 212 to mile marker 213, the Audra Rogers Memorial Mile.
Mr. President.
Senator Allen.
This is a young lady with her children, and she was pregnant at the time, and she was killed on a head-on accident by a drunk driver. And her 4 little boys were injured as well, and we're going to name that section of the highway after this young lady. I move the adoption, adding all the Senate.
Mr. President.
All right.
I'd just like to ask the gentleman a question.
You recognize?
You on 43?
It was north.
43 north?
North towards north side.
On the north side, because I know there's a couple of names south that's close to the Tuscaloosa line, going back towards Utah that's already been named that section. But this is north, going back. Okay,
right.
I'm fine with that.
ALDOT and ALDOT have researched this thoroughly, and this is appropriate.
I'm okay with it. I just want to make sure we wasn't going south, because I knew a couple of them that I had done already that was near that Tuscaloosa line. I didn't want to be overlapping. That's all.
Let's just go ahead and move the adoption.
All right. Any objection?
No objection.
Hearing none, so ordered. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution's adopted.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Senator Allen. All right, Senator Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to take House message. I think we have one.
All right, Secretary, call House message, HB 192.
Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives has non-concurred in the Senate amendment to the following bill, House Bill 192, relating to the Alabama Sunset Law, to the existence and functioning of the Alabama Board of Massage Therapy until October 1st, 2027, and request a committee on conference. And the Speaker of the House has appointed as conferees on the part of the House Representatives Reynolds, Hall, and Wilcox. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
Mr. President,
Senator Reed.
I'd make a motion that we accede to the wishes of the House and go to conference.
All right, use previous roll.
Previous row.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 192, we go to conference. The conferees will be Senator Barfoot, Senator Gavan, Senator Smitherman. Thank you, Senator Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I think that is going to conclude our business for the day. But I've got another topic that is very important. I know that the leader will share this idea of importance, and I want to mention it. I want to bring to everyone's attention, yesterday was Administrative Professionals Day. Administrative Professionals Day. Like Secretary Harris says all the time, we have absolutely the best staff in the world that takes care of us and allows us to do the people's business by supporting us constantly. I know Jennifer in my office and Sharon in your office, Mr. Leader, and all of the others that support us, whether they're down the 7th floor hall or whether they're in these offices behind us here, all working for each of us and working for the Secretary. We just want to take a brief moment to recognize all these folks and offer them a word of gratitude and some applause because of their diligence in supporting us on the time that we want to recognize them.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem, for that, and certainly want to tell Chelsea she does a great job for our office as well.
Well, we couldn't do it without those folks, and we just want to recognize them at a time that's appropriate. So with that, Mr. President, again, I want to thank the body for its diligence and its hard work this week. We've accomplished quite a bit, and so it is good to see our efforts moving forward and how diligent we are about accomplishing the people's business. With that, Mr. President, I make a motion that we stand adjourned until 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday, leaving the Journal open until 2 p.m. for House messages.
All right, y'all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned.